Picking back up in segment 2 on taking heed of the warnings and taking heed of this end time deception, we stopped off in Matthew 24 where Jesus said many people will be deceived, many false prophets will teach, many people will say that they know Christ, many people will say this. And Matthew chapter 24 verse 21 says, "For then there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no nor there shall ever be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Look, there is Christ, or there, believe him not." Verse 24, "For there shall arise false Christs, false prophets, shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." Notice that it says that there will be a great tribulation. There's many people teaching that we will be raptured so we don't have to face no troubles, no persecutions, no tribulations. And all these Christians, professing Christians, are just looking for the rapture, to be raptured away from all this trouble and all this time. We are actually going to be here. Yes, I do believe in a rapture, but it doesn't mean that it's just saving us from this persecution and tribulation. That's the problem with American Christianity. They don't want to face any persecution and any tribulation, so they're looking for an easy way out. That's why we have all these prosperity doctrines and all these doctrines that make people feel good about themselves, because they don't want to face and stand for exactly what Christ told us to stand for. But the key is, why is people not being taught and trained up to be able to detect false teachers? It's because a lot of false teachers don't want them to see to learn the truth and learn the Bible, because they'll see that their very pastors are false themselves. Now let's see if some of the apostles, what they told us would be going on in the last days, and if they ever told us to take heed to false teachings. See, a lot of people don't like my ministry because I am teaching people, and I stand up against false teaching because I don't want no one to be deceived. And I realize that Jesus Christ told me, and he loved me so much that he told me the truth about myself first, because I was deceived. And telling the truth, whether it hurts or not, is the way you love somebody. Jesus Christ came and told us the truth about ourselves and then gave us a way out of it. But if he had never told us how terrible and how sinful we was, then he would have never truly loved us. He had to tell us the truth about ourselves. Acts chapter 20. Verse 29. Acts chapter 20 verse 29. Look what Paul said. "For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own self shall men arise, speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. Therefore watch, and remember that by the space of 3 years I ceased not to warn everyone night and day with tears." Paul was hurting night and day with tears, warning that there's going to be people coming out from the Christian ways, preaching and teaching falsehood, not sparing the flock. There's many so-called theologians and people going to theology school just to go in there that are being trained up by Satan himself to come into the church and mess it up. Which they would say it's people like me who come to the church and bring the truth and make people conform to the truth, or stand up and show what they teach in the church. They will say that I'm working for Satan, but all I'm doing is bringing the truth and making people conform to the truth. But we see that Paul even warned the people, just like I'm warning you. Make sure your church ain't teaching falsehood. Let's see what Paul said to Timothy. What Paul said to Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1, it says, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, the Holy Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils." In the last time, people are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. Just like last week or a couple weeks ago, I taught and I went out in the valley and handed out truth about Easter, pagan Easter, seducing spirits that are saying that it's okay to worship Jesus and mix in following with the name of Easter on top of it. The seducing spirit was Semiramis. The seducing spirit is Semiramis. That is the spirit that is seducing people. And there's other spirits that are going on. But we have to see that in the last time, people are going to depart from the faith. The faith would not ever mix a pagan festival with the true faith of God if you are a true minister of God. But as he said, it has happened. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 16, because there's a lot of people say, oh man, as long as we believe in the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus, as long as we believe in the essential doctrines, doctrine period is important. It says it's profitable for us. Doctrine period is important. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 16 says, "Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee." That's just save thyself and them that hear thee. But it says continue. It says take heed unto the doctrine. We have to take heed that doctrine is very important. Because in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 15, it says the people will be tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. That's what's happening. People don't know what to believe in the Christendom nowadays. People don't know what to believe because they're not going to the Bible and just letting the Bible interpret itself. They're just receiving things from traditions or passed down from their grandmas or their fathers, or they're scared to go away from what their pastors are saying or ask their pastors what's going on. We must take heed. Paul was even warning Timothy this. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1 through 5, it says, chapter 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 1 says, this know this, it says, that in the last days dangerous times shall come. We're living in that time. People getting shot, people not caring. It says, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to their parents. Kids are just losing their minds nowadays. Unthankful, unholy, without natural affection. We got gays everywhere and all this stuff. Truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good. People will hate people who teach truth and live truth and want to live holy. They hate that. Verse 4, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. More people in the church would rather start trying to be crunk for Christ and dancing for Christ and have pleasures and going to the movies that have all kind of killings and stuff, and that they would rather have that than be lovers of God. Verse 5 says, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. This is what the Bible teaches us is going to be happening in the times. And Christians are just laid back and all just relaxed and lethargic, not doing anything, thinking everything's good, like in Revelations talk about a church because they say that they have money and have all this, not knowing that they're wretched and blind, as Jesus said in Revelations, talking about an end time church. People, we must wake up and take heed that this is what we're falling into. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 3 and 4 says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned into fables. The Bible teaches us that in the end time they will not endure sound doctrine. That's why people don't want to follow the 10 Commandments anymore. They'll say that you're being legalist if you teach it, that we should obey it. They'll say that it's legalism. They don't want to follow that truth. They don't want to listen to the proper way of worship. The Bible teaches that they'll worship in their own ways, and everyone does it their own ways, and their ways thereof ends in death. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 25, I believe it is. There is a proper way to worship God, and people are just approaching God in any old way, being frivolous and not approaching God, a holy God, not understanding that God is a righteous judge. He's a God who judges. Yes, he's a God who loves, but that he loves us so much that he can't put up with sin. So people, we got to understand, you cannot fall for this, but you must endure sound doctrine. You must know what sound doctrine is. Look what Paul wrote to Titus in chapter 1 verse 9. Holding fast the faithful word as he has been taught, that you may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the opposition. Most Christians can't even stand and defend the faith. Most Christians don't even know what the doctrine is. Most people can quote scriptures but don't even know what it means, how to break it down, how to defend it against the atheists and the so-called other people who are bringing in damaging and damning heresies in the church. Titus 1:9 says that we must hold fast to the faithful word with sound doctrine, be able to. So does your church teach sound doctrine? Because in verse 16 in Titus chapter 1 verse 16 says, they'll profess that they know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and unto every good work reprobate. Meaning no matter what they do, they try to do a whole bunch of good things, but it doesn't matter because they profess they know God, but they're denying him. The Catholics are denying Jesus Christ, the true Jesus Christ, when they talk about purgatory, where they talk about that there's still things that got to go on to be saved when you try to be saved by your works, and that as if the blood wasn't good enough, and that you got to pray to Mary and not go through Jesus, when the Bible teaches that Jesus Christ is the mediator. But when they say Mary is, that's denying Christ. They profess to know God, but they're doing abominable things, bowing down to statues and so on. I'll come back to in segment 3, but we're talking about end time deception. Notice this stuff is going on. We got to take heed to the warnings. I'm just giving you scriptures where there was warnings and what we're supposed to do. God bless you.